Today I want to talk about what Darius Leonard had to say about whether or not you need to go to a Power 5 school or pick an HBCU to make it to the NFL, and all that's coming up after the bumper.
Don't be cornering me. Hold up. Time. You gotta help me with that corner shit.
What's up, kinfolk? It's RJ Young. I am not on a step mill. Consider hitting the like and subscribe button because I upload a video every single day. It's always college football related, sports related. We have a good time. Today, Darius Leonard spoke with Master Tesfasian about why you can make it coming out of an HBCU to the NFL. For those of you that don't know, Darius Leonard is an all-pro linebacker for the Indianapolis Colts who played ball at South Carolina State. And he makes some very good points, right? One, he was under-recruited. Two, there are more Pro Football Hall of Famers that came out of South Carolina State, or than there are Pro Football Hall of Famers that came out of Clemson, which is in the same state and lords over, at the very least, the state of South Carolina when it comes to college football, with just one Pro Football Hall of Famer. And I'm kind of conflicted on this because I feel like I'm a Debbie Downer, and I'm not trying to be. So if you are interested in going to an HBCU, whether it be Clark Atlanta, South Carolina State, Fisk, Shaw, or even the ones that people know about like Grambling or Prairie View A&M or Tennessee State, then you should definitely go take a look at those. I mean, what Jackson State is doing with just naming Deion Sanders as head coach has presented a great marketing opportunity. But let's not act like it is the best path for you to get to the NFL, because quite frankly, it is not. That could change, but with integration, that road has been thrown away. It's been put aside. Like that put an end to FAMU, putting players into the NFL like Bob Hayes and Ken Riley. Put an end to guys like Claude Humphrey, Joe Gilliam Jr., and Eldridge Dickey coming out of Tennessee State. It put an end to Shaq Harris and others coming out of Grambling. I mean, goodness me. Buck Buchanan. Goodness me. Doug Williams. We can keep going on that, but you can't say that anymore. Matter of fact, last year, only one HBCU player was selected in the entire NFL draft in 2020, and that was pick 227. Goodness me. Latavius Simmons coming out of Tennessee State. It's just not a great path. And then there's numbers that back this up, and let's go by them. First, let's start with this one. 9 teams individually had more first-round draft picks over the past 2 years than the entire G5, which today plays a better brand of football than most HBCUs, like the SWAC or the MEAC, right? Also take into account, since 2015, 61 first-round picks have come out of the SEC, 33 in the ACC, 32 in the Big Ten, 29 in the Pac-12, 15 in the Big 12, and then the American, just 7, right? Just 4 in the Mountain West, just 2 in Conference USA, and just 1 in the MAC. Then we take a look at the percentage of Power 5 players that were selected in the first round. All but 1 last year in 2020. And that 1 was the 32nd pick, and that's Jordan Love. And many of us have already told you, I wouldn't take that guy in the first round. He threw more picks than anybody else in the FBS's last year. But 87% of first rounders came out of the Power 5 from 2011 to 2014. In 2012 to 2015, 87%. 2013 to 2016, 87%. 2014 to 2017, 89%. 2015 to 2018, 90%. 2016 to 2019, 90%. 2017 to 2020, 92%. Over the last 10 years, Power 5, last 10 drafts, has seen first rounders selected 30 times out of 32, 27, 28, 26, 30, 28, 30, 27, 30, 31 first rounders. The numbers just don't back up the argument that you are actually doing yourself a service by going to an HBCU if your path is to get to the NFL. Now, the culture, the environment, the community that an HBCU provides you is invaluable to black folks. That is the reason why I believe in them. It is the reason why I support them. And it's the reason why many of the people that I look up to most in the world graduated from HBCUs. Like my cousin went to Morris Brown. Many of y'all know Bomani Jones went to Clark Atlanta. Many of y'all can continue to look down the road and see so many great black folks have come out of HBCUs. But when it comes to playing professional football in the NFL, where they skim off the top 2%, you can't compete with LSU, Alabama, Clemson, Oklahoma, what we traditionally think of as the blue bloods. But if we're just taking a look at what HBCUs were doing prior to integration, there's the argument, right? That argument is in the 60s. That argument is in the 50s. That argument is 1948 when Southern goes undefeated, beating up on San Francisco State in the first ever integrated football game, Fruit Bowl, in which we saw Odie Posey just destroy people, rush for over 1,300 yards in like 12 games, was outstanding. One of the first superstar athletes at an HBCU during the time of integration. But in the modern era, we saw Michigan State decide to go down to Houston and recruit players. Bubba Smith comes up from Houston in the Golden Triangle. We saw Buck Buchanan coming up. We saw Eldridge Dickey coming up. We saw Night Train Lane coming out of L.C. Anderson, end up at Scottsbluff, Nebraska Community College, do a stint in the military, walk on to a tryout with the L.A. Rams, and leave as one of the best defensive backs of all time. We know that the Kansas City Chiefs built their 1969 Super Bowl team on the talent coming out of HBCUs. We know it. We know what it is. But you can't say that today because most of your favorite college football teams are not just integrated, they are majority black in many instances. Now, I have a mentor, Derek White, who wrote this book, Blood, Sweat, and Tears, about the FAMU Rattlers and history of black college football, who makes this point that black athletes need to know that they are the bargaining power when it comes to how things can go. And the only way to turn a revolution is for them to decide they no longer want to attend a Power 5 school where they don't feel like their interests match up with making them a full person, with allowing them the opportunity to grow into the man that they need to be in addition to the football player they are. And there are, I think, programs that try to integrate as much as possible into the atmosphere of what it is to be a full black man in the United States. I mean, Lincoln Riley did all the right things last summer, and I believe that he's a great man in a world where I'm not always sure about that, right? And that's at Oklahoma. I can also see the argument for how your needs get serviced, right? Because there is an accepted code among many of us that, frankly, just doesn't figure into it when we're talking about major college football in many ways. And to look at some places where you're still having arguments, like the Texas and the eyes of Texas, it can turn you off, right? But then you need to take into account that some HBCUs, most HBCUs, don't even play Power 5 football or Power 5 football, FBS football. They play FCS football. Jackson State plays Grambling, right? Grambling plays in the SWAC, the MEAC. We understand Steve McNair can come out of Alcorn State. Darius Leonard can come out of South Carolina State, and on it goes. We know Tariq Cohen, but outside of that, we can point to 7, 8, 9 guys from the University of Alabama that are probably going to get selected in the first 4 rounds, and at least 3 of them are going to get selected in the first round of the NFL draft. With an upside, I would put it 6, right? If you include Landon Dickerson, Alex Leatherwood, Jalen Waddle, Najee Harris, Mac Jones, and of course Devontae Smith, you get there real quick, right? So there's something to be said here. But to tell kiddos that they don't have to go to a Power 5 school to get drafted is true. To tell them that it gives them the best opportunity to get drafted is not, unless they want to change that in mass. And until I see more black players exercising this agency and making a concerted effort to make it happen at HBCUs, this is going to be what it is. And many of the reasons that they choose have nothing to do with the community and everything to do with training tables, facilities. How big is the campus? How much is football important to the campus? What kind of bowl games do you play in? What kind of road games do you play in? What is the atmosphere for your education, right? University of Michigan is one of the better academic institutions in the country, just like Stanford. Those are not HBCUs. Northwestern, same thing. It's not an HBCU. You get where I'm going with this. There's a lot of other factors to take into account. And to say that it's all on a player to make it happen is also for you to tell that player he is admitting that he's putting himself at a disadvantage and he's going to try to overcome that disadvantage to get 2-3 steps ahead, which I would agree with because that is being black in America my entire life. So if that's something that you want to continue to do, I support you, young man. I want the best for you. I want you to succeed. I want you to achieve your dreams. but I also want you to have all the data on the table. And don't get just jazzed up because you saw one guy that makes it, or two, because you saw one guy that made it. And as my mother would say, if somebody could do it, you can do it too. Doses.